Beep, 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 beep.
An alien spacecraft. Well, that was all the bits that I had for today.
So get together, have a few laughs.
Uh-oh, shit, lady, do I sound like I'm ordering a pizza?
Hey, put the freaking gun down on the ground right now. Take your son across the freaking street and say that Joey's gonna get you.
Hello, and welcome to Where There's a Willis, There's a Way, a film podcast about the multitude of works by Bruce Willis. My name is Kendrick Martin, and with me, as always, is...
Josh Carter.
Today, we will be covering 1990's Bonfire of the Vanities, directed by Brian De Palma, written by Michael Christopher, based on the book by Tom Wolfe. It stars Tom Hanks, Melanie Griffith, and Bruce Willis, of course. And then, after we talk about that, we will be wrapping up with The Wheel of Willis. But first, Josh, by the time this is released, hopefully the great winter storm of 2021 will be over. There is still snow outside my window. Did you lose power at all?
I lost power, but like for only a split second overnight, or some amount of seconds, because I got up and the oven timer needed to be reset, and that was it. That was the only evidence that I had.
I think oven timers only really exist to tell you when your power goes out.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that that's the case, because like they're such a pain, and I definitely prefer things where if it doesn't know what time it is, it doesn't try to make up a time. Like those things always like way more than like
because it'll be like, did you know it's 7 a.m.? What? No, it's not.
Yeah. Oh no, it's 3 p.m. What the? Yeah, I hate things like that. So whenever it's something where it tells me like 4 hours off the real time, I go, okay, fine, I'll fix it. So I feel like that's kind of a needy oven, but I definitely prefer ovens that are like, hey, it's cool, time is an illusion, we're not going to try to like pretend to know what objective time is, quote unquote. So we're just going to read you a bunch of dashes instead. Those ovens are like my best pals.
I don't know about you, but it seems like a growing trend to just not use the oven time settings at all and use like your cell phone. Mm-hmm. Mainly because, at least in my experience, oven timers and oven controls seem to be extremely obtuse and confusing. Yeah, and like, every oven is different.
Totally, yeah. Like on most of my ovens, you hit the timer button, you set the time, and then you hit the timer button again. And then on like the other half of the ovens, you hit the timer button, you set the timer, and then you hit the timer button again, and then it's like, no more timer, go away. And so it's two very opposite things done by the same set of button presses. And it's like, how is there no one timer setting situation that's going on here? I do not get it. I want to have a word with whoever was designing ovens back when they first came out with buttons, and then say, hey, we really should get some sort of consensus built here.
Wow, you sound like quite the guy over there with so many ovens. You're having to juggle your ovens.
I have 16 ovens in my house. I don't know about you, but is that a large amount of ovens?
That's a fair amount. You should be careful and not get your vanities bonfired. On that note, if this is your first time listening to this podcast, it is always this funny. Yep. And if you disagree, you can email us, williswaypod@gmail.com, or tweet at us, williswaypod. All right, let's talk about the movie Bonfire of the Vanities.
Okay. Here we go. My name is Peter Fallow, the man of the moment, the toast of the town. But it wasn't always this way. Let me tell you how it all began. In the 80s, making money and living well was all that mattered. And no one did it better than Sherman McCoy. Now he was a master of the universe.
Tom? Sorry. Collated? Let's not lose our composure over a few $100 million.
No one could resist him. Not his mistress.
This could be the best sex I've had in a long time.
Not even his dog.
It's raining and he's not happy about it, Mr. McCoy.
Neither am I, Bill.
I, on the other hand, was a reporter in need of a story.
This is Peter Fallow, the has-been.
Oh, Shantae.
In need of a spark. Which is exactly what I got.
It's a body.
It looks like...
It's an animal.
No. I think
Is it dead?
It's a tire.
It's a
That's
dead
all.
tire?
I turned that...
That audio was from the trailer of Bonfire of the Vanities. I'm going to read the description from IMDb. Financial master of the universe, Sherman McCoy, sees his life unravel when his mistress, Maria Ruskin, hits a black boy with her car. When journalist Peter Fallow inflames public opinion with a series of distorted tabloid articles on the accident, the case is seized upon by opportunists like Reverend Bacon and mayoral candidate D.A. Abe Weiss. This movie is available for rent on VOD, and as always, we will be spoiling the entire movie. Joshua.
Yeah.
What was your opinion of Bonfire of the Vanities?
I fucking hated this movie. I thought it was so horrendous. Something that I do when I'm watching a movie is I try not to judge the movie 100% based on just what I'm seeing. I'll try to think about what the movie is aiming to do if I catch any whiffs of that, and then imagine how it is against what its lofty goals are, if that is the case. It's why I love movies like Mad Max that just have a very simple concept but do it amazingly. This movie had kind of a complicated concept with like the whole satirical look on rich people looking out for themselves, some race relation stuff, etc. And it does bad in every single area as far as I'm concerned. What did you think about it, though?
Completely agree. I did not look up anything about this movie before we started watching it. That's typically how I watch things, is I just dive in and then afterwards I'll do the research and put my thoughts and notes together. I wasn't sure if it was being honest or trying to be a satire on wealth and race relations. For the first half of the movie, I think there's definitely a point. And then you definitely are going, oh no. It tries to take the it tries to walk the line of being kind of with pointed barbs, but also make a statement, and it does both of them very badly. Yeah,
I noticed that too. It's funny that you point out that you had a hard time figuring out if it was genuine or a satire, because I also had the same problem. And then one of my roommates was like, of course it's a satire, or it's trying to be, because all these lines don't make any sense. But I don't feel like they made that as clear as they could have. And part of that, I'm going to say, is due to the lack of trying to frame things as a satire. And I'm going to go into like some of the different casting stuff and writing stuff later. But the big problem for me is like the music. Like the music is just very genuine in a lot of moments. And that's not necessarily what you're looking for in something that's trying to clue the audience into what type of movie it is. Because I was like, am I supposed to like any of these characters? Am I supposed to be wanting to condemn them? I don't get it. But the music is just like, we're a genuine movie this whole time through. And it's such a big disconnect between, I feel like, what they were going for or what they should be trying to go for, and between what the outcome was.
I totally agree. And one of the biggest things I felt like at the very end was I was never rooting for anyone, not Tom Hanks' character of Sherman McCoy, not Bruce Willis's character of Peter Fallow, not the DA, not the Reverend, not even the kid and his friend who got hit, who ostensibly, very small role, were just standing there. But first I want to talk about a couple things. The opening shot. So this movie starts with, I want to say, like a 3-minute take that is a one-shot take, and it is the camera moving backwards the entire time, and Bruce Willis goes from standing to golf cart to moving around corners, people coming in and out of the scene, grabbing things, talking to people. I thought that was all extremely well done, and I was very impressed.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, this movie is like really the cinematography is like there. And then not long after that scene, there's when we're first introduced to Tom Hanks' character, I didn't see anyone else mention this, so it may have just been me reading into it, but it felt like it was a Citizen Kane homage where it's raining and you're looking through a rooftop window at someone and the camera kind of slowly pans down in through the window. That was a big kind of breakthrough moment in Citizen Kane as far as the cinematography there goes. And so those two things really made me go, okay, this movie wants to be taken seriously. It wants to be treated as like a good piece of art. It's putting the work in. And then it just like completely lost me.
Yeah. Well, and isn't that like one shot of JFK as well, like towards the beginning of the movie?
When they're driving the car, and is that the scene you're referring to?
No, there's like a plane sequence where the plane is like landing and the sunset is directly behind it. It's like a really pretty shot.
With the Concorde, yeah.
Yeah.
Is that what the Concorde jet?
$80,000.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
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 That's right.
But
that's right.
There's other stuff like that makes you think like, oh, they're trying to be I do think that it's mostly to do with the filming aspect of it. And then you get like the dialogue that doesn't quite match, but your brain is already in this is a genuine movie mindset. So you have a hard time like pulling back and then trying to see it as a satire. Like, I don't want to diss on the opening sequence, which is just amazing. Like nearly 5 minutes of unbroken long take with like walking carts and tight corners and an elevator at one point. Like, I don't want to take anything away from that, but maybe if you were trying to do a satire and you're trying to show how ridiculous things are, don't do something that makes me think that this movie is trying to be like heartfelt and genuine right at the beginning. You can have a shot like that if it adds to the character of everything, which I didn't necessarily get because it's our first introduction to Bruce Willis anyway, so I don't really know that it did anything for me. So, yeah, there's just like a lot of problems with the way that they try to introduce you, and so then to get out of the mindset of this movie is a serious movie that wants to be taken serious, to go to this movie is a satire and doesn't want to be taken that seriously, just didn't work for me.
Though I will have more to say about Bruce Willis when we get to that section of our discussion. I have a lot of questions about both his role and his character.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think really started to change my feeling on this movie was when the accident happens where Tom Hanks and Melanie Griffith's character run over that kid, which I would say the description we read called him a kid. I would say young adult. He didn't he didn't look a teenager to me. But when they're driving a car, I think what is it, a Cadillac? They're driving a car and they take a wrong turn and they end up in the Bronx. And I don't know if we've talked on here before, but I've noticed that in the early 90s, pop culture's view of New York was that it was kind of a war zone. And movies like Escape from New York and other movies predicted that New York would only get worse. And crime was terrible and, it was extremely dangerous city to live in. And when the car pulls off the highway and you're in the Bronx and there's burning cars, there's people just everywhere.
Yeah.
I was like, what are we trying to say here? And then that whole interaction, like, I feel like it wanted to try to, it had so many opportunities to create a genuine accident and then have Tom Hanks be like speeding away like he didn't really do anything. But then it was just an overly complicated tire, and then the two guys were chasing them, and then they kind of ran over the guy, which we never even really saw.
Yeah.
I felt like we were supposed to be kind of questioning the motives of the two guys that got hit. Like, were they faking it or not? But
yeah,
I was unclear on that whole thing. And I know this is based on a book, and one of the common complaints in the reviews that people wrote was that the book is a much more well put together takedown on wealth disparity and race relations, especially in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious if we reading that today would think that it was well put together, or if it was just better for the time.
Yeah. I'm going to guess it probably would have just been better for the time, because the bones of this movie aren't like that great anyways. And I'm going to guess that the bones of this movie and the bones of the book are pretty similar. So, I don't know though. Maybe I'm judging the writer too hard. Tom, I think his name was. Maybe I'm judging him too hard, but I'm not that crazy about even the story just in general. So,
yeah, exactly. What a ridiculous tale this ends up being. Let's talk about casting.
Yep.
So Tom Hanks plays the Sherman McCoy, quote unquote, master of the universe, master of the financial universe, according to that description. He's shown at his business doing some kind of tax, stock, money business, have trading, selling. I don't know what he's doing. Something to make a lot of money.
Selling the bonds for the Nagasaki Corporation.
Yeah. It all comes together. But I never am led to believe that he's great at what he does. We're seeing him try to do one job and then fail at it. Yeah. So,
yeah, he doesn't give me like a sort of crazy competence that I would expect from somebody like that. He seems like he's young, maybe a little bit overly optimistic, overly enthusiastic, but I don't get that he's like super competent, top of his class sort of a character. And I feel like that's what the movie wants you to think. So, yeah, and part of that is also just that Tom Hanks is a very likable person just in general. So I was talking with somebody else about this, and I think that the biggest problem is that they don't really know what they want from these characters, or at least what they want from these characters is probably not what they should have wanted from these characters. Because in my opinion, for Tom Hanks' character, McCoy, you would want a character that is very cold, very dislikable, seems very competent, but is extremely watchable. And I didn't really get pretty much any of those things from Tom Hanks other than the watchability part, but it was like in a, oh, Tom, what are you doing in this movie sense.
I haven't gone and looked, but I think my general view is I don't know if Tom Hanks can be a villain. And I don't know if that's me having grown up my entire life viewing him in his most well-known roles, or maybe he just can't perform a villain very well. But he looks like such a child. He has such a childlike look about him in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like a child play acting some kind of villain. Even in the beginning, he miscalls his wife instead of his mistress. Is that supposed to be funny? I was just confused. Like, what is going on? You don't know
the characters at that
exactly.
point.
Exactly. That's the first thing you hear is him call someone and then be like, whoops, wrong number.
Yeah, and then you kind of start to piece together what the big conflict was. And that's also during the period of the movie where Bruce Willis isn't even seen for like 30 minutes of the movie. Like, he is just other than the opening sequence, he doesn't appear until like 35 minutes into this movie. And so you're like, I thought that he was supposed to be the main character because he's the one that's narrating it, and he's the one that is in the opening sequence. And nope, he is not. He's not even close to the main character. He's just a guy that is watching things go down. Yeah,
Bruce Willis's character, I tell you what. I read an interview with Brian De Palma about this movie, and he thinks that John Lithgow would have made a better choice for Sherman McCoy because he would have got the blue blood arrogance of that character, end quote. Do you agree with that? I think that's definitely what.
Yeah, certainly. I think basically anybody that's a little bit older and can be a little bit more villainous would probably be a better choice for that. I know that I mentioned that the music was bad, but if anybody is listening to this, hasn't watched it yet, but is planning on watching it, please note 2 different musical things. One, there's like almost a rom-com musical cue when both Tom and Bruce are on the subway, so watch out for that. And there's also an extremely genuine like song when Tom Hanks is going nuts and is running around with a shotgun. So you have those 2 things to look forward to. It's like almost a heroic like theme music in the background, and you're just going, what, why? This is not a heroic moment. This is a character in the throes of despair. What am I watching?
Yeah, that was another problem I had with Tom Hanks' character is the character's turn. I felt like was complete. I didn't understand it. It didn't make sense. It didn't feel genuine.
Yeah.
His community starts to kind of fall away from him, but it's so slapdash along with the rest of the story. I don't feel sorry for him. I don't feel like at the end he's genuine when he tries to get out of the court case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I will say one thing that did work for me was when Tom Hanks is suffering from the overwhelming amount of guilt and he goes to the opera and there's all that like cutaway sequences where he's imagining himself within the opera and like in hell for lying and stuff like that. And then he talks to that one poet guy who's just saying random shit that doesn't mean much to anybody who's not Tom Hanks's character. In that moment, I did like those little bits, but by and large, I'm right there with you. I did not really feel anything for Tom Hanks's character, McCoy, and I didn't get his turn. I didn't understand him in the first place, so maybe that's a big part of it, but it's just so bizarre.
You can't empathize with this rich guy who lives in Manhattan?
Yeah, and who like drags their dog across a floor at the beginning of the movie. I don't know, man. Just everything about this character doesn't make any sense to me. And like the person that he's having an affair with also maybe lives in New York, maybe. And God, man, I don't even know.
There's a whole small commentary bit on she's subletting an apartment but shouldn't be, so she's really sticking it to the man because she's getting rent controlled.
Yeah, and that like comes up 3 times because they like mention that at the beginning, and then there's like the guy going, "Oh, I need you to sign for this thing" with the tape, and then the tape comes back and stuff. So like I get why it's there, but it's so out of left field. And this movie is also like way overly complicated. Like if you're making a clever little satire, you want the cleverness not to be in the complication of your plot. You want it to be in the way in which you're drawing interesting conclusions and interesting like sorts of what's the word that I'm thinking of? Comparisons, yeah. Certain comparisons with different things that are going on to help people kind of take a step back and then think about it, because you want people to more to be thinking about the themes of the movie than the plot of the movie. And I was so confused by the plot of this movie that I spent no time thinking about the themes of this movie, because I'm like, wait, what is going on with the guy who's asking the person to sign for the thing that they didn't even authorize in the first place? Why are there what is this guy who's telling this story about a plane that can't take off? What is so many of those sorts of things that I just should not have been thinking about if this movie was trying to be a satire about race relations in the U.S. and relations between the uber wealthy and regular people.
Let's talk about the ending. There's a scene. Okay. So we haven't even mentioned Morgan Freeman playing the judge in this movie.
Okay, so did you recognize that it was Morgan Freeman right away? Because I did not, because I'm used to Morgan Freeman with hair.
Yeah, I mean, his voice is kind of a giveaway. Also, I have seen him in young. I've seen young Morgan Freeman.
Okay, I'm used to old Morgan Freeman with hair, so I was like, "Who is this charming black guy?" He's Morgan Freeman.
There's a scene at the end when, first of all, I was very confused on the judicial system here because at the end the judge just goes, "Well, I don't think we need to keep going," and he just calls a halt and lets Tom Hanks go.
Yep.
But he gives a kind of an interesting speech on the system. Like, people are spending all their time to get this. The whole point of this movie is the DA is trying to prove that not only black people are affected by the judicial system, and so he's like looking for any white scapegoat he can use. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was an interesting idea, but it is so buried under the confusing plot and the confusing way that the tape was acquired, and then the fact that Tom Hanks just secretly plays it in court, and then the judge is like, "Well, I guess that happened. Goodbye, everyone."
Yeah. Like, if Tom Hanks was going to lie about it, why wouldn't they submit it as official evidence?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
because the other attorney wouldn't allow that because he knows that it's something that Tom Hanks didn't capture.
But then how did it still work? Why didn't they say that at the end?
Because the movie needed to end somehow, Kendrick.
Oh, Josh.
Yeah, about that end courtroom sequence, I have two things in movies that I've realized are pet peeves for me. One of them is courtroom inspirational scenes. I hate them so much. It's just a way to like state your the conclusion of your themes all succinctly in one place. And this isn't even a very good courtroom scene. Courtroom inspirational scene. The other thing that I hate is voiceover in movies, because I generally think it's not needed. And this movie does both of those things. So it's like trying to piss me off the entire time through.
Interesting. We should start a little checklist of Josh hated items. Have you by chance seen the movie came out last year, The Trial of the Chicago 7?
I have not yet.
Well, it ends with quite a
courtroom scene.
Yeah, quite a courtroom scene.
Because it's just like, is that something that actually happens where they're like, one thing that I'd like the jury to consider, and then they like go on about this whole thing about right and wrong and like the deeper parts of humanity and whatnot. Like, I feel like I've seen that scene so many times, and it's not like it's necessarily the worst idea ever, but once you see it over and over and over again, you're just going, please, for the love of God, do not do an inspirational courtroom scene.
Yeah. Yep. I agree.
What did you think about the singing choir?
I thought it was fine. I thought that the whole reverend bit, I think the point was to kind of be like, hey, everyone's taking advantage of the situation, not just white people. I feel like that is where it leaned. The problem with this movie is it over caricaturizes people beyond being able to make any kind of cognizant point. And that reverend was the prime example for me. Mm-hmm. But
yeah, I totally agree. I absolutely agree.
I think that the choir was like an interesting bit to watch, but
my biggest question was story-wise, because they're just, like, apparently they're full-time hired to be this guy's, like, posse. So that was, like, the weird part for me, that they're just following him around everywhere that he goes, to the TV interview, when church isn't in session, but the reverend is still there, and then the choir is singing the whole time that interview is going on. It felt like the whole John Mulaney bit, where there's like an interrogation with guy who can't stop unloading boxes, like where they're like, hey, we got a few questions for you, and the guy like keeps unloading the boxes the whole time that the interrogation's going on. That's kind of what it felt like to me, but not as a joke. I don't know. I wasn't sure if they were trying to make a joke about it or not.
I don't know. That's a good question.
It's a good place to be when we are constantly questioning what was the point of this the entire time through.
Yeah. Do you have any other thoughts before we move on to trivia?
I have that one activity that I prepped, so if you we could do that right now, or we could save it for later, whatever you want to do.
You tell me. It's just I don't know what I don't.
Let's do it right now.
Okay.
So for those of you who are at home, this is going to be a quiz for you to play along with Kendrick, and there is a total of 8 possible points that you can get. So we're gonna see how you guys all do. The first 3 are just going to be multiple choice, and then it'll be true and false questions. So Kendrick, are you ready?
I am ready.
All right. So the first question is, which of these people were not considered for the role of Peter Fallow, the Bruce Willis character? A, Jack Nicholson. B, John Cleese. C, Gene Hackman. Or D, Christopher Reeve.
Not considered?
Yeah.
I'm going to say Gene Hackman.
That is correct. For
Nice.
question number 2, which of these people were not considered for the role of Sherman McCoy, Tom Hanks' character? A, Chevy Chase. B, Christopher Reeve. C, Kevin Costner. Or D, Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise.
That is wrong. It is Chevy Chase, but the author Tom Wolfe wanted him to play him, which would have somehow been worse than what we actually got.
Yeah, man, that would have been bad.
Oh, it would have been horrendous. All right. Originally, this movie was going to have a scene in which A, Bruce Willis interacted with the dog from the beginning. B, Tom Hanks defends against an angry mob with a sword from a statue. C, Bruce Willis was originally asked to show up drunk to better personify the character. Or D, Tom Hanks shoots the hat off of someone on the floor above during the party.
D, Tom Hanks shoots the hat off.
It is not. It is Tom Hanks defends against a mob with a sword from a statue. And they did film that sequence, and it did not test well.
Wow, yeah.
All right, so you have 1 out of 3 possible points. Let's go to the true or false round. F. Murray Abraham, D.A. Abe Weiss, refused to be credited with the movie because it was so bad. True or false?
False.
It is false. He wasn't credited, but he wanted to be credited above the title or go uncredited altogether. And they said,
wow.
Nope, you're going uncredited altogether.
Wow. All right.
Yep. All right, so 2. The end of the original movie ended with the man hit in the hit and run walking out of the hospital, suggesting the whole thing was fake.
True.
That is true.
Wow, wild, because we just talked about that.
3. Morgan Freeman has never seen this movie.
True.
Yep. People hated working with Bruce Willis so much on this movie due to his ego.
True. I did know that one.
Yep, that is correct. Last question. Tom Hanks got the director to not cast Uma Thurman.
False.
That is actually true. Tom Hanks was a little bit of a dick, it seems, at the time.
Wow, yeah. Everybody.
Yeah.
This movie was like the movie of the Vanities.
Yeah. Yeah, so let's see. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You got 5 out of 8. So those of you playing along at home, you have to do better than 5 out of 8 in order to beat Kendrick.
That's slightly better than 50%. I feel pretty good.
Yeah. Some of those were some tricky ones too. But
yeah,
I could not believe the mob sword thing. And I tried to look for any footage of it and I could not find any. But apparently they filmed that whole sequence. And like the IMDb trivia says that there was an unused but filmed sword fight between Bruce Willis and Tom Hanks. And I was like, no way. And then I found the original script, and yep, sure enough, there's like a whole sequence in there that they cut. What the hell?
I wonder if there's any Bruce Willis movies where he sword fights. We'll have to.
Yeah, I don't know.
We'll have to keep that pin in the wall.
Well, you know, if there is, you guys listening to the podcast will be the first to know.
After the people who watch the movie.
Yeah. And most everybody who knows about the movie.
Watch it be like one of his well-known movies. Die Hard 3 or whatever.
Yeah, of course. Die Hard 3, the one with the sword. That's what the subtitle is.
Yeah. Sword harder.
Sword. Oh my God. I'm quitting.
Before you quit, though, Josh, we have to talk about our Star Trek connection.
Oh, yes. Which apparently I've been out Star Trek this time.
So I found 3, and then I stopped looking. So it is very possible that we have different ones, but maybe not.
Unlikely, I think. Why don't you go ahead with your 3 then, since I usually do this.
Why don't you go first, and then I'll drop in the ones that you're missing.
Okay, sounds good. So the ones that I have are in a separate Google document, which I am now really embarrassed about. I have to go to this other Google document. I was like, yes, right. Yes, absolutely. Let me load that up real quick. Okay.
Oh, Kendrick, why don't you go first?
Rapidly type it away. Anyways, the 2 that I have are Kirsten Dunst, who plays the little girl at the 25 minutes into the movie, the daughter of Tom Hanks, which is seen like twice and then never again.
Wow, I totally missed that was Kirsten Dunst.
Oh, really? So you have other people then? That's crazy. Yeah, but she's in a Star Trek episode on Next Generation. The episode is a 7th season episode called Dark Page, and she was 11 years old when she was in that one. So I'm not sure 100% of which season that would have, or what year that would have been, but 7th season should be pretty easy to find. Yeah, so she was in that, and then she was obviously a kid in both. And then the other Star Trek connection that we have is Kim Cattrall, which is the person who's playing the wife of Tom Hanks's character. And she was in Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country. And she was playing a character that is a Vulcan bridge officer, sort of like the Vulcan bridge officer that Kirstie Alley played, actually. And the reason that they are so similar is because the second actress that played Saavik left, and then Kim Cattrall was asked to come in, and then she's like, I'm not playing the same character that 2 other people have already played, so they renamed the character Valeris.
Interesting. I remember you talking about that when on Look Who's Talking, when we talked about Kirstie Alley. Ironic that we got both ends of the stick there.
Yeah. we just need the middle one. I think it was like Robin somebody played the middle Savick. So I'll be curious to see if there are any Bruce Willis films coming up. That'd be interesting.
Wow, yeah. Okay, the two that I have left, John Hancock, who played the Reverend Bacon in Bonfire of the Vanities, played a Vice Admiral Hayden, and he was in 2 episodes of Next Generation in the 3rd and 4th season, and he basically is giving... his role is to give Captain Picard some advice on avoiding a war with the Cardassians. I didn't know this until I was reading his Memory Alpha page, but he actually died. The actor, John Hancock, died in 1992 from a heart attack. So not long after Bonfire of the Vanities.
Oh, wow. Well, he has this as his magnum opus, at least.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So what a great memory. Yep. The other Star Trek connection, I'm surprised on this one because I feel like this is probably the character I know the best. Saul Rubinek, who played Jed Kramer in Bonfire of the Vanities, he was the assistant DA. I think he kind of led the investigation.
Yeah.
He was in an episode of Next Generation in the 3rd season where he played this kind of kooky alien guy who collects toys, and he wanted to steal data and like keep him captured.
Oh my god, I think I remember that episode.
Yeah, I remember that episode specifically because of him. He plays kind of a devilish, overpowered child, almost villain, kind of a super villain, and was memorable. So this movie really,
I totally
went all out on the Star Trek connections.
Yeah, that is crazy. Who knows? Maybe there were other ones too that we missed because we both stopped searching after being like, "Oh my god, that's so many."
Yeah, I mean, I literally just went down the IMDb page and got like halfway down, and I was like, "Well, I think this is enough." And it's funny that you still came in with more.
That's crazy. One of my ways that I've been getting the Star Trek connection is I'll go into the IMDb credits list, and then I'll go through and copy each name and paste it into the Memory Alpha page, because everybody that's done anything related to Star Trek has a Memory Alpha page. So you can narrow it down pretty quickly. And by pretty quickly, I mean it takes a long fucking time because you got to copy each name individually and search for it.
What I do is I just look for people. I just randomly click names and then scroll down their IMDb looking for Star Trek.
Nice.
Equally as stupid.
Yeah. If somebody can please write us a program that does that automatically. Well, would it even be the Star Trek connection if it did it automatically? Or is part of the Star Trek connection the connection that we both have with these various methods of looking for the Star Trek connection?
Mm-hmm. Before we talk about Bruce Willis in this movie, let's talk about how much money this movie made. I know that it was a box office bomb, so it did not make much money. What were our numbers?
Yeah, so I got the numbers right here. So this is release year numbers, not adjusted for inflation numbers. But the budget for this movie was $47 million. And the box office for this movie was $15.6 million.
Wow.
So they lost like 3 times the amount of money that they put into this movie.
Wow.
Yep. Yeah.
My, oh my.
Pretty rough. Pretty rough indeed.
I think Bruce Willis was paid $5 million for this movie. So
he was.
A lot of that. Yeah.
The same amount apparently as Tom Hanks. They both got paid $5 million for this movie.
Interesting. Interesting.
Man.
This is it. I don't follow Tom Hanks super closely. I think for the most part I enjoy his movies. he can be a little hit or miss. But this era of his movies, I don't know much about at all. So I'm curious as to what kind of movie star cred he had, what pull he had. I know that Bruce Willis. We can just transition straight to talking about him now. But Bruce Willis was hot off of Die Hard still, and so that's, I think, why he had a little bit more movie star cred than what this movie needed.
And he was actually casted because of the amount of movie star cred that he had. That was like the main reason that they decided to bring him in. And I also know that with Tom Hanks, he was just doing comedic films, and this was his, hey, I can do serious movies movie, and it did not work because people hated it. Yeah.
I wouldn't even call this a serious movie.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Huh. It's funny now thinking about it. Tom Hanks, another actor who the movies they're famous for are not comedies or romances, but so much of their early career, and really so much of their career in general, is comedy, rom-coms, comedies in general.
Yeah.
A lot of Tom Hanks early works, Big and stuff. But wild.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder how many actors follow that same formula, and how many are just like super serious the entire way through, and how many are just funny movies the entire way through.
You would think that comedies would not be big moneymakers compared to big action movies, but as we've seen so far, it seems that Look Who's Talking really raked in that money.
Yeah,
really,
but it's like Look Who's Talking the outlier with the other movies, or is it just...
Oh, yeah, maybe.
I don't know, man. Look Who's Talking is just such an enigma.
So this movie, Bonfire of the Vanities, had a book written that came out the following year by Julie Salomon called The Devil's Candy, The Bonfire of the Vanities Go to Hollywood. And I haven't read it. I'm kind of interested to read it, though. I think I looked on Goodreads and it's close to 500 pages, so that's pretty lengthy to
That is a
talk
good
about.
read.
Yeah. Hey.
That's a show. See you guys next week. No.
There's a lot of like behind the scenes gossip, I think, that happened in this movie, largely due to the fact that Bruce Willis apparently was very hard to work with.
Yep. Yeah, apparently that one sequence where that old guy dies, Bruce Willis made them shoot faster because he was too warm on set.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, apparently just extremely obnoxious to work with. I'm curious as we go on what other stories we'll hear about the movies he's made and that reaction he gets from people. Yeah. Question for you. At the end of this movie, I believe this whole movie was a dream of Bruce Willis. Do you agree?
That the whole, like the entire movie?
The whole story that we are witnessing is some kind of fever alcohol dream of Bruce Willis.
I don't know. I'm gonna say, probably not, because my dreams often don't go longer than 2 hours. It feels, but that is an interesting theory for sure. What's
dream time? So he goes from very poorly thought of journalist to the biggest star because of a book that he writes based on this story. And I mean, the movie was nonsensical, and the book that he wrote in the movie couldn't have been any better. So how on earth would he get crowds upon crowds of people falling over him?
Yeah, that was something that we all thought at the beginning of the movie. My roommates and I were like, wow, he must be like really famous. He must have done something amazing. He wrote a book? That's it?
Yeah.
That's so disappointing.
Yeah, I even if that were to happen and someone were to write a kind of takedown scathing book on whatever, we wouldn't just all go to the opera and be like, herald this man, give him shrimp.
Yeah. Wow, he's shown up drunk to a thing where he is talking to reporters in a minute. Let's not say anything about that. Let's just empower him to live his best life. Like, no.
Yeah, he extremely alcoholic in this movie. But then he can just sober up instantly for all of his investigative reporting. It goes back to what we were saying about not knowing who to root for. He doesn't seem to want to be a good journalist. He's not depressed. He's not drinking out of frustration or inability to create. It's not a story about an artist struggling to find their muse and drinking as a replacement. It's just a story about a drunk guy who happens to find his way into a story. Now that I'm saying it out loud, do you think that maybe that's the point, is he doesn't understand the privilege that he falls into, and in taking down a famous privileged man, he is blind to the fact that he just lucked into everything? That feels too smart for this movie.
Yeah, I feel like anything that you're thinking right now that is smart is not what they were thinking when they were making it, because nothing smart comes through in the movie. But that would be like a great way to approach it if you were to approach it that way. But you'd have to like set that up throughout the movie and have it pay off at the end, instead of going, oh yeah, that was the theme that we totally meant, because they payoffs. This movie has a lot of things, but not any payoffs. Nope, zero payoffs.
$700 billion deal down the drain or whatever. No payoffs.
No payoffs.
One final comment I have on Bruce Willis' performance, and I'll hand it over to you. He should not wear those glasses. Those were real bad.
Yeah. I didn't totally hate Bruce Willis in this movie. I thought that he was like fine, but that character is such except for the narration. The narration was horrible. He sounded so uninterested, so disconnected. But the like moment to moment acting I thought was all right. It didn't strike me as bad necessarily. It didn't strike me as great. But the character is by and large not the main character ? Because he's in like the beginning sequence, the ending sequence, and he's sputtered throughout the rest of the movie. So it doesn't matter as much. Most of this movie lies on the shoulders of Tom Hanks, who I feel was horribly miscast. Not necessarily badly acted as much, but Bruce Willis, I feel like they probably could have put most anybody else in his role and it would have been fine. And I didn't think that he did necessarily that great or that bad either.
It is interesting how we just came off of Look Who's Talking 2, similar to Look Who's Talking, both of which rely heavily on Bruce Willis narration or voiceover. And as much as I thought that was bad, this was also extremely phoned in, literally phoned in. I thought this movie would have been our worst Rotten Tomato score so far, but it is not.
Nope.
Do you know what movie is worse that we've covered?
Well, I know Look Who's Talking 2 is worse. Sunset might also be worse.
Nope, just Look Who's Talking 2. So this movie, Bonfire of the Vanities, got a 16%.
Yep.
Look Who's Talking 2 got a 13%.
Yep, that feels about right. You know, speaking of percentages and rankings of other movies above other movies, do you want to go over how you rank this against every other Bruce Willis film?
Yes. So I think it belongs at the end, and it really I think there's enough there that it could probably move above Look Who's Talking 2. But it is too offensive for me to put it anywhere but the bottom. So
that's interesting. Yeah, I was originally going to put it above Look Who's Talking 2. But now that you say that, it is offensive to all my senses and offensive by itself.
Look Who's Talking 2 at least was like 87 minutes. This movie was over 2 hours.
Yeah. I think even though I would much rather watch Look Who's Talking 2 above this movie, I'm probably going to put this movie above Look Who's Talking 2 just from a overall filmmaking perspective. Now that I'm saying that, I don't know. Oh, this is so tough. Yeah, I think I'm just going to have to go with my gut, and I'm going to have to put it above Look Who's Talking 2. But it is 7 out of 8 on my list.
Yeah, we're the hard hitting discussion. There is like we said, there is some good things. That opening scene is really good. A lot of the camera work is really good. There's a lot of split diopter shots, which I thought were really neat.
Yeah,
the whole, if you just could turn the script off and use it as a illumination, I find it to be really interesting.
Yep. Yeah, it's almost like the cameraman didn't get the memo that they were making a movie that was supposed to be
bad.
Bad. I don't know. He's like, we're going for the Oscars, right? And everyone else is like, no, don't do it.
Yeah, this movie did win an award. It won a Stinkers Bad Movie Award.
Okay. I was like, I did not look that up. Oh my God, I can't believe it.
Yeah, can you imagine? I cannot believe that's the name. Stinkers Bad Movie Award for Worst Picture.
Or you're not kidding?
No.
Oh my God, I thought that you were kidding. I thought that you just made up the thing.
Nope.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's terrible.
It was nominated for a bunch of Golden Raspberries, but it won the Stinkers Bad Movie Award.
Yeah. I would give it a personal Josh Stinkers Bad Movie award.
Yeah.
This movie gets 0 Bruce out of Willis's for me.
Oh. Yeah. It is not even a B.
Not even a B.
I forgot that was our rating system. I'm going to have to prepare more next time.
Yeah, so do you have anything else that you wanted to talk about, or are we ready for the Wheel of Willis?
I think we're ready for the Wheel of Willis.
Well, excellent. You know what we have to say every time we do the Wheel of Willis, correct?
I do. Whisk that wheel.
All right, it's spinning. Okay. Would you trust this Bruce Willis character to babysit your kid?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, that gets a 0 from me as well.
He is drunk the entire time, except when he's magically not drunk.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, you could take the chance that they're going to be magically not drunk when they're babysitting your kid, but also, no thank you. So, yeah.
Yeah, not a risk I'm going to take.
Nope. Yeah, so one thing that we always try to do is if we get any great emails, we'll read those off during the end sequence of a Willis Waypod episode. And we did get an email. This email is from Fabio, and the email is, it says for the little heading, urgent. Email is as follows. Good day. My name is Fabio. I sent you a mail and there is no response. Please confirm that you did get this mail. Regards, Fabio. So I just want to
Thanks,
say thank you to Fabio. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't get his mail.
Yeah, I didn't either. I don't know if we should respond to him, though, because Fabio does not necessarily give me real person vibes, but maybe he is.
Possibly.
Fan of the show, Fabio.
Yeah. Look, Fabio, if you want, you can just send it again, or possibly just,
Yeah. We did actually get... Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, don't come across as not a person.
Yeah, I mean, those are pretty good recommendations. One thing that I was thinking about is maybe, Kendrick, we're disregarding these as possible bots when it could just be people who are non-native English speakers, because we do have listeners supposedly in the Czech Republic and in Russia.
Yeah,
so.
quite possibly. I don't want to disregard Fabio if you're listening.
Yep,
I
absolutely
apologize for potentially calling you a robot.
Yep.
But I would gladly take your email if you were to send it again. If you're listening and you want to send us an email, williswaypod@gmail.com. Also, it would be great if you left a review on Apple Podcasts. It really helps us know that you're out there leaving reviews, if you leave one.
I thought you were like, it really helps us? I was like, in what way? Like, it boosts my dopamine for a split second, but it does not do anything long-term for us unless we're getting sponsored by Sesame Street or something like that. So.
That's still a goal. Still a goal of mine.
Absolutely.
I read it repeatedly so that dopamine stays boosted, actually.
I see. Yeah. If you are interested in following either of us, you can follow me on Twitter at @JoshingCarter.
And you can follow me on Twitter at KMartinix, KMartinix, or you can see anything else that I work on at kmartinix.com. Next time, we will be covering the movie Mortal Thoughts. Josh, are you familiar with the movie Mortal Thoughts?
No, if I had to guess, it's going to be like Mortal Kombat, but with more thinking.
That's a good guess. Also, related, potentially, Mortal Kombat movie is coming out, and a trailer dropped recently.
Ooh, it's a sign.
Yeah, I think it's probably related, the Mortal Extended Universe.
Yeah, anything with the word mortal in it is all related. You know, like is it Mortal Engines or whatever that Peter Jackson executive produced movie was?
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I didn't know that movie actually came out, but...
Yeah, I think it did.
Sounds like a Peter Jackson movie.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Have a great rest of your day. Always appreciate it. Take care.
Thanks. Bye.